You make me look. You got it all inside of you. Feel it to be true. And when you dance, I'm in the groove. You make me look. You make me look.
Hello and welcome to tonight's Monday night panel. Hope everybody is well. Despite the frustrating day on Saturday, just want to say that we had a fantastic time with Phoenix Enterprises, our charity of the year. They joined us at the game and the players were wearing their T-shirts on their warm-up. So it's just a bit of awareness. They had a fantastic collection up in the hospitality suites, made a lot of money for their wonderful cause. So that was brilliant. And also the Junior Reds, if you're a Junior Red member, don't forget you can pick up your seasonal gift, your bag, book and water bottle when you're next at the game. So let's bring Vic on a moment.
Hi, Chris. Hiya.
How are you? You okay?
I'm all right. Thank you very much indeed. We've had a very long, busy day today, haven't we, in terms of various things of which you're dealing with, as is the club. They are dealing with them.
So just to say, we are aware of a number of social media posts that we have been tagged in. We've had lots of messages through regarding things regarding Saturday, the seats needed cleaning, that type of thing, food outlets, Legends Lounge. So I just wanted to say that we are dealing with them. We have made a list of all the ones that have come through us, and we've started talking to the club about them. So tonight will be about the football on the pitch and how we can look at explaining what happened and for the future what we can do. So, but again, if you do have anything you want to raise, you can either raise it with us, or there is an email address which I will put up on the screen, which is supporters@swindontownfc.co.uk, which will go, I believe, to Vicky, who is the fan engagement and the supporters liaison officer. So, but yes, please note that we are working on everything. And if anybody has raised anything directly with us, you will get a reply, or you should have already got a reply that things are in hand. Okay.
Okay.
Right, Vic, that's me.
Well, lots to say. Yeah. Today, of course, is the 80th birthday of the great Peter Noble, who's sadly no longer with us. One of our 1969 Wembley legends, part of that team that won Anglo-Italian Cups, and also took us to the verge of the top flight in 1970. What a great player, not only for us, but for Burnley too. And we mourn his passing some years ago, of course, and we'll always have his picture on the front of our introduction. What a great player. And also, thanks to all those who took part in the minute's applause for the great Andy Rowland on Saturday. I know the family very much appreciate it. And we also remember Mark Waters from SAS Travel and the Reverend Nigel Sands, a former chaplain of the club, who's also passed away recently, and a wonderful response to that minute's applause. We really are grateful. Thank you very much indeed for that. As for the SAS Travel, well, it's Crewe on Saturday, as you know. It's a 12:30 kickoff, and the bus will leave the county ground at 7:30 a.m. on Saturday. I know, it's hurtful, it's painful, isn't it? 7:30 a.m. on Saturday. That bus is full, though, so no more spaces available for that. And then on the 3rd of September this year, we're away at Exeter City in the Bristol Street Mofers Trophy. If you want to go with SAS on that, it's £21 for members of the official supporters club, £23 for non-members. Leaves at 2:30 p.m. And then Barrow on the 7th of September. Now, you thought Crewe was painful. £38 for members, £40 for non-members. leaves the county ground 7 a.m. on the 7th of September, 7 a.m. And actually, it's worth noting that there is reduction for OSC members on all those fares. It's a £5, Chris, isn't it, to join if you're not a member through the season ticket? And already on 2 trips, you save £4. So I'm just saying, simple as that, really.
Yeah, and you can join the OSC through the website. And as Vic said, £5 for the year. Okay, shall we get the panel on, Vic?
Okay.
So we have Anna.
Hello.
Hello.
We have
Hello.
Rob. Declan.
Good evening,
And
all.
last but not least, we have Mark.
Hello.
Hi.
Evening.
Right. Okay, so I will leave you to it, and I'll speak to you later.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris. A little mention there for Liam, who spoke to us in French, because we noted that he looks like somebody who might be out on his bicycle in another part of Europe, which was, tantamount to a shirt, which is a very nice shirt. Mark's is also kind of similar, but
It's a bit stripy.
Yeah, a little bit stripy. Yeah, not so bad though. Declan, a very good evening to you. And the Emerald Isle, I'll trust it's well there. Everything good?
All is good, thank you. Yes, all is good.
Excellent. Rob, no French attire for you, but a very good evening to you.
And to you. No, I'm in blue, Vic, sobering up the mood a little bit more, I think.
Oh, goodness me. Yes, indeed. And Anna, hello to you, who's got a Swindon Town shirt on, which looks a lot brighter than most of us. An old one, yes. Apparently, you've been on TV already, Rob.
Yeah. Not my finest hour, I don't believe. But yes, I tried to summarise in 10 seconds what we saw on Saturday without using a swear word. I think I just about got away with it, but I'm not sure how. That's tricky.
Okay, well, Tony saw you, so that's all right. Right, I'm just going to read out the bare statistics, okay? Just so you remember them in all their horror. Swindon Town 0, Walsall 4, Gordon on 33, Matt on 40, Alan on 49, Adoma on 64. 1 shot on target for Swindon, 7 shots in all. Walsall 7 shots on target, 18 shots. Now, this means diddly squat. 56.8% possession for Swindon, 43.2% possession for Walsall. As I said, it means diddly squat. 3 goalkeeper saves for Swindon through Bycroft. 1 goalkeeper save from the Walsall keeper. Swindon 2 corners. Those are the bare statistics. Anna, what do you make of them?
Well, it kind of sums it up, doesn't it? Really, that it was an abject performance, especially given that first home game of the season. You go in with optimism, as you always do first off, don't you? But it really looked very, very similar to the first half at Chesterfield for those of us who were there. It looked like a group of players who didn't know each other, didn't know what each other was doing. Harry Smith was flicking on to nobody. Offenball didn't look like he knew where exactly he was playing. The defence was all at sea. I don't really think that Grant Hall can be criticised too much for slipping. You know, these things happen, but that wasn't the problem, was it? Really, it really was a bunch of people who'd never seen each other before. That's what it felt like, which is no great surprise because they hadn't. You know, once more we're faced with the beginning of a season where we have pretty much, you know, an entire turnover of squad, give or take a few, and a manager and the backroom staff. And it's not a surprise, is it? You're trying to hit the ground running, but it's a very, very difficult job. So, you know, I kind of went in with a little bit more optimism than what I saw, on the basis of the second half at Chesterfield, where we did pull it, you know, we did turn it around and pull it together. But, you know, chances being few and far between 2 league games running. I think we only had 1 shot on target, Wright's goal at Chesterfield, didn't we? And obviously we've got to work out who is that creator, how we get people forward and support. Because I don't think we haven't got the players. I think we're maybe missing 1 or 2, that creativity. But, you know, we have a spine in there, and they've got to show some spine.
Yeah, Liam, I mean, my main concern was in the second half, when the 3rd or the 4th goal went in, I can't remember. But it was this kind of, the body language was awful. And I think the manager afterwards used the word capitulated, which I was a little taken aback by, because that's how it seemed to me. I mean, there was that. I mean, I've played in teams that have been beat by more than 4, and you just sort of think, well, can we just get off this pitch? It's that simple, really. How were you feeling?
Well, I kept getting confused between Glatzel and Bycroft, didn't I? So, but because Anna teased me on that the other day, I thought Jack Bycroft was man of the match. So it could have been a lot worse. It could have been 6 or 7, to be honest. I mean, that stop he did both in the first half, and there was one in the second that were just world class, really, considering all the social media rubbish he'd had after the Goalie game. I thought he had a really good performance, and let's look at that. But I think also how do I put it? I actually was reassured by Mark Kennedy's honesty at the end of the game. I thought he was really pragmatic. He was eloquent as ever. I think his comments about we'll lose games, we'll win games has already been taken out of context by some people on social media. But I thought it was really good what I heard. And I was more reassured by that. And then I thought about, hey, we beat Crawley 6-0 this time last year. And we drew to a late, resilient Crewe 2-2, didn't we, last year? And we should have beaten them. And so I'm not as pessimistic maybe as I felt on the day itself, because I've reflected on it, providing things get turned around. But it is that in memory. I mean, we talked last week, didn't we, about opening days and have lovely stories and lovely memories. Well, I've forgotten that one already. I can't compare that with Sunderland 32 years ago and Glenn Hoddle scoring. I can't compare that at all. And I just, thank somebody that we only lost 4-0, because it could have been a lot worse. At least we didn't lose 5 like Crewe, who were playing on Saturday.
Well, I watched the goals of the Crewe Chesterfield game this afternoon, Rob, and I just thought, my goodness me, we were saying before, it'll either be 0-0 or 10 each. It's one of those sort of games, isn't it? And I hate to say this, but is it a 6-pointer already? I mean, it's vital that Swindon get a positive result on Saturday, to my mind. I mean, I know it's, it's only early in the season, but actually it sets a trend, and, we need a lift, don't we? As fans, we need a lift.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we could come on here tonight and be extremely downbeat, couldn't we? Because that was possibly the worst opening home performance that I've ever witnessed, I have to say, because there were so many things wrong. There wasn't a style of play that we could instantly recognise. Players were playing out of position. I really don't understand quite why that was happening. The wing backs that we've brought in, both are technically good players, but neither of whom got forward at all to put crosses in the box for our centre forward. The whole ethos of the way that we thought we would play didn't happen. And I think the one thing that hasn't really been said a lot over the course of the last couple of days is how good Walsall were.
Yeah,
they stopped us at source. They were just excellent, I thought. And whether that was just an early season blip from us, or whether that was actually Walsall look a very good side and they will be all season, time will tell. But I was very impressed by them. Not what I wanted to say, because I wanted to be very impressed by us. And I was the complete reverse, unfortunately. But we have to treat it that it is the second league game of the season. We've got 44 more left. What has to be learned are the lessons from Saturday. That's the critical part. We haven't got a creative midfield player in that side at the moment. That has to be addressed. That's absolutely critical. We don't look like we'll provide any ammunition to the forwards at all at the moment. None of the midfielders got forward. Ollie Clark, who I'm really hopeful is going to be a top player in this division for us, barely got a look at the ball on Saturday. And off the ball as an attacking midfield player, can we stop that experiment immediately? Because he needs to go back in his CDM spot, because that's where he's very, very good. And that's what we saw at the back end of last season. Central defence, I'm sure, will improve with Ryan Delaney once he's fit. I've got no doubts about that. But we are lacking creativity, invention, and somebody to get the ball into the right areas of the pitch. That was our biggest issue on Saturday. There's no definition in the way that team were playing, and that's what they need to address on the training pitch this week. Fingers crossed they will. As I say, we hope that that's just the biggest wake-up call you could wish to find at this stage of the season, and there's an awful lot of time to put it right. But as you rightly say, you don't want to go into the season on the back of 2 or 3 defeats, because that just gets everybody's attitude into the wrong places. And that's what we could well see if we don't get a positive result at Crewe on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Mark Kennedy used the phrase that we played academy football rather than EFL football on Saturday. I think the point he was making was we were trying to play pretty academy football, and Walsall was streetwise. They had the likes of Adoma, they had the likes of Matt. You know, they had experienced players out there who knew how to do what they were doing, and I think that's, you know, goes to why they were so impressive. I think at the top of the table, aren't they, 6 out of 6? But hey, you know, what does that mean at this time of the season? Declan, you had a long old journey. Got back at sort of early hours of the morning. How was it for you?
Yeah, 10 to 1 Sunday morning. Again, questioning sanity, as you do after such situations. Like everybody else, would have gone into the county ground with a certain degree of optimism last Saturday. I thought if we could reproduce for longer periods the performance against Chesterfield and a large degree of the performance against Crawley when we came back from 2 down, we would be okay. But obviously the tone was set with the first goal and how easy it was for Walsall to score. There aren't any real positives to the afternoon, except I think for Jack Bycroft and what that performance will have done for his confidence, because as was mentioned earlier, he'd taken a fair hammering through social media and whatnot during the week after Crawley. So for him to produce the performance that he did was a real shining light on Saturday. We've got 2 weeks left in the transfer window. It's a massive 2 weeks. The issue has been mentioned already about the lack of creativity through a midfielder and perhaps getting another striker. It's a big week, I think, for Mark Kennedy, even though it's only the second or third week of the season. Him going into training this morning, getting that group together, assessing Saturday's performance, looking at training during the week and see how he can get more out of his group of players before they go to Crewe on Saturday. But I think more so off the pitch, the ability to get that creative midfielder in, the right type of player, and to work out what our strike partnership is as well. There's 2 big things that have to happen over the next week, hopefully before Saturday, although I wouldn't be too confident of that, to be honest with you.
Well, we'll see what happens over the next few days. I haven't seen anything today, so nothing as far as I know has happened so far. Hi, Stephen. Where is McGurk? Haven't heard any update on his injury. Good question. I'll try and find out over the next few days, I would imagine. Hi, Sean. Still seething after Saturday. Unacceptable performance. I was expecting better, to be honest, after that second half at Chesterfield. Just hope it was just one of those days. I think it's going to be hard. Crewe will be up for it. Rob, get used to Kennedy hoofball, says Markham. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes over the course of the season. Hi, Pete. Cottrell is not a holding midfielder. Offerball should be playing there as that's his strength. By the way, is the Swansea loan a condition that Cottrell starts, as he was totally ineffective yet played the full 90 minutes? Hi, Paul. Last year, attendance first game off-season was 9,000. This time, 7,000 plus 600 away. Hopefully things will get better. Otherwise, crowd will be less. Come on, you Reds. Actually, Mark, that is a point, isn't it? I know it's holidays. I know people are away, all that kind of thing. But those who might have gone on Saturday for the first time, they won't have seen much to entice them back. And that has to be a worry, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was looking at some stats earlier on, Vic, and actually the first game under Morfuni, we had 9,100 Swindon fans. I think it was against Carlisle, if memory serves, 4 years ago. And this Saturday,
we lost, by the way. We lost that one, didn't we?
Yeah, we lost that. Yeah, 7,100. So we've lost 2,000 along the way. And both Anna and I and Liam, who all sit together pretty much, we know of several people who have not renewed. And I suspect that's being repeated right around the ground. I think Anna made a point before about the club not actually issuing the number of season tickets that have been sold, which would be quite interesting to hear. We've certainly lost some fans, and unfortunately, they're not likely to return, are they? The ones that came on Saturday and perhaps sort of thought, well, I'll come and see how my local team's going to do this season, and they're not going to come back after that, really, are they? So I suspect that crowds will dwindle unless we can find some kind of winning formula. From 7,000 maybe, that's traditionally quite a biggish crowd to start the season, to maybe 6,000 next home game. We'll see.
Yeah, that is a worry, because if you start off at a low base, of course, and then results don't go your way, they decrease. But, of course, they may go the other way. We don't know. Long way to go in the season. Lee says, it was a horror show. I wanted to walk, but I stayed as I couldn't be bothered to move. I mean, I have to say, Mark, I've never seen an exodus like that so early in the season, so early in a game. It's extraordinary.
Well, Rob summed it up, didn't he? And Rob said it was the worst first home performance I think we've all ever seen. We're all obviously fans who've been watching Swindon Town for a long time.
And I don't ever remember seeing a worse opening performance than that. Of course, we've lost games. You know, we lost games. I can remember a Sheffield Wednesday game when we were 3-0 down. We came back to 3-2.
Yeah.
But the lack of creativity is something we've already touched on. Was the biggest thing. Also, although Mark Kennedy was very honest in his post-match assessment, and I commend him for that, actually he missed a few things, didn't he? He missed talking about a lack of pace. There's no pace whatsoever in that side. You have to have wing-backs who can go past people. Didn't look to me like they were capable of doing that, really. We've already touched on the fact that it appears that the midfield is skewed somewhat, isn't it? You can't rely on a 19-year-old to be a pivot, can you? He's got to be played further forward, surely, with Offerball and Clark sitting more. They seem to be more adept at that. Certainly Offerball did at the end of last season. So I think he's not a fool, Mark Kennedy, is he? He's been around. He's played a lot of games in the higher leagues. He's been in academies. He's managed Lincoln. So you'd hope that he could look at that and say, right, okay, what have I done wrong? What do I need to put right? Because it surely can't be any worse than that.
Yeah. How can a team be so lackluster for the first home game of the season? They should have been fired up to impress the fans, says Kevin. Jason, we've not been in a winning position yet. 10 shots across 2 league matches. No one else in the division has had fewer. 2 have been on target, also the lowest of 24. That's stats courtesy of the Moonraker from Matt. Yes. I've got a technical question for you, Rob, which I'm not terribly sure you can give the answer to this, but anyway, it's from Rob. Not you, it's just confusing. Evening all. Could you advise why the past 2 away matches, the BBC Wilts pre-match, has not been available via my smart speaker? I know the commentary isn't available, but the pre-match always has been. Many thanks, Rob. Rob, any idea?
I have heard it, but in terms of it is still happening, but I have no idea why you can't actually get it through the proper media channels. I would have assumed it would still be via its normal FM frequency like it normally is, but if that's not the case, then I think that's something to take up with Mr. Halls and Mr. Hodgetts.
Yeah. It's the internet, Rob. I was because the Crawley game, I was on the road, so I was trying to listen to it on the internet.
Okay.
On BBC Sounds, and all they were playing Tuesday night for the Crawley game was bland music. I'm afraid. I wanted commentary.
Are you suggesting the BBC play bland music, Liam? I can't.
Yes, I am, Vic.
As I said, somebody who worked for them for 30 odd years, I can't believe that's possibly the case. Anna, lots of people left. I mean, those of us who are, I don't know, daft, probably stay towards the end, but I'd say till the end. Would you have got up and walked out? I mean, it's one of those, you're a customer after all, aren't you? And if you're not happy with what you're seeing, you're entitled to voice your opinion or make it known by walking out. What would you say?
I mean, sadly, I've seen worse. I stayed till the end to see us lose to Aldershot last season. So I'm just never gonna leave before the end of a game. You never know what's going to happen. I'm not suggesting we were going to make a comeback, but something hilarious might happen that's worth staying for. You never know. But I understand why people might have left a bit earlier. I'm not sure I quite understand why people want to leave straight away after the 3rd goal. I mean, I don't know what the point is in coming in the first place if you're going to leave after 49 minutes. But obviously, people are frustrated. People come in with a sense of optimism and hope. But for me, this is something probably that could have happened at any point in the last few seasons because of the amount of turnover and the lack of continuity that we see year on year, season on season. So that's something that I know the club are aware of. They want to work on. They're trying to offer longer contracts, but still, that longer contract doesn't mean that somebody's going to be around the following season. I think we have made some good signings. Somebody mentioned Ollie Clark earlier. Clearly, a good role model and a solid player. Will Wright, same. So we have got a bit of experience which we've lacked in previous seasons. But the creativity resting on the shoulders of the younger players, i.e. Cottrell or McGurk, if and when he's fit, is clearly not sufficient. You have to have somebody who's got a bit of experience, and we can point maybe at Jack Payne, Dan Kemp. That sort of player is maybe wishful thinking to have back in the side, but somebody's got to provide that link. And the more we take it to the opposition, the less chance there is of our defence getting exposed as it was on Saturday. And that's clearly always going to be the case, that you need to stave off and shelter the defence by pushing forward. And I don't know how much possession we had in the opposition's last third. The stats you read out earlier, I think it said
56.8 possession overall.
Yeah, okay, so it's slightly in favour of us, but I can't imagine much of that was in the opponent's third. I don't know if we record number of touches in the opponent's box, but we're just not getting bodies in there. We're not getting the right balls in there. Balls did come across occasionally, but they were pretty much snuffed out as they came in. Their keeper didn't have much to do. He claimed a couple of things, but if we're still in this position and talking like this at the end of September, then I think we've got a real concern. Yeah. So we have got time. We've got time for them to gel. They are getting to know each other. Kennedy has got to look at the position of players, as we mentioned. He's got to look at where off the ball plays. He's a much better breaker up of play for me than he is a creator, which looks like they've always been asked to play. So, and the transfer window is key. So we'll see what happens, but a lot of work to do.
Right, let's have a look. Andy says, please don't call fans customers. We're not in the entertainment or retail business, no matter what many may say. Leave all that rubbish to the Prem. I think the point I was trying to make is you pay your money, so you're entitled to voice your opinion in whatever way you want, I guess. That's the point I was making. Dan says, hopefully Kennedy made it clear that there should be no repeat of that performance again. Need to find an identity of how we want to play. Nobody who played seemed to know what they were doing. You will never build any foundations starting again every year. Hi, Paul. And from Phil, anyone know why Offerball did not come out for the second half? Injury or tactical? If it was tactical, I'm worried. And Sean McGurk is apparently back on the training pitch, but not sure how long before he's back in the team. Steve says, never renewed my season ticket. First home game I've missed in 3 seasons. Best decision I've made in a long time. And £23 better off to boot. Goodness me. Walsall were better in every department. They did have the rub of the green, and the ref, whilst okay, let an awful lot go early doors. Longello has pace, but was too frightened to take his own shadow, and let alone any opposition. Smith has poor body language from early on in the game. I didn't hear the captain rouse his troops once. Very disappointing, says Carl. Actually, the funniest moment of the game, I think, was when Harry Smith was being talked to by the referee, which is quite at least, Liam, that was a bit of humour, wasn't it, in the middle of all that, all that was going on. We needed a bit of that, didn't we?
We did, yeah, because big difference in height. I thought Clark was okay. He was industrious, wasn't he? He was busy. But actually, we got mullered, didn't we, in midfield? The three of them were, it looked like they had about 4 or 5 more midfielders. They didn't, but that's the way it looked. And I think Cottrell is clearly for Swansea work in progress, but there's too much responsibility for him at this stage. We do need that ball winning, dynamic, probably a more experienced midfielder, and we're not going to get them on loan from the Premiership, are we? We're going to get 19, 20-year-olds that are just been through their academies and under 21s, really. And we desperately need somebody of that skill and guile. And that was missing. And it's a fair point earlier about having 2 wing backs with no pace. That's really important. Made me think, Mark, you said it, made me think about Romeo Hutton. He'd do really well with this team, but sadly, he's at Gillingham. Along with everybody else at the moment, it looks like. I mean, Bradley Dax for them is a good signing as well. Really good signing. We get midfield this weekend.
Yeah, I've seen Matt J mentioned or rumoured. All sorts of players are being rumoured. Jake Young is being rumoured. All sorts of players are being rumoured as well. So we'll see. Hi, Matt. I have to disagree. Funniest bit was Josh Gordon getting one right in the sensitive area. I don't suppose. You see, I think, why do people find that funny? If it's ever happened to you, you would realise it ain't funny, I can assure you. And yes, I'm not saying any more. Sarah says, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And we're going to finish on top, feeling hopeful. We all hope you're right. Jason says, I'm also concerned about the amount of bookings we are racking up. Rob, that is a fair point. Ollie Clark seems to be someone who's likely to see a yellow card, doesn't he? That is a worry, isn't it, early on in the season?
Yeah, it's frustration. I think a lot of it. I mean, that tackle that he did on the edge of his own box, he'd not seen the ball for Lord knows how long, and I think that was probably part of it. And the bookings we accumulated at Chesterfield, I have to say, I think the referee was a bit one-sided on those, because we seemed to pick up bookings for one tackle, and every tackle that went in from Chesterfield never got one. So I think we're a bit unfortunate with the ref up there. But it is a worry, because let's be honest, if our squad is still not strengthened further, we can ill afford anybody else to be missing due to suspensions. That's the last thing we can afford. So we do have to take that into account. I think the biggest thing for me is that, again, when we can scrutinise and criticise individual parts of that team on Saturday, but the whole way that we played just didn't fill any of us with any confidence that this is all going to change as the season wears on. And that's the key thing these guys get across to everybody this week. I think the defence was 10 or 20 yards further back than they should have been. The midfield was literally sat on top of them. Whenever the ball went forward, and it was hoofed, as was mentioned earlier on, towards Harry Smith far too often, if by any stretch of the imagination he did bring it down, he was trying to look around with a pair of binoculars to find another player to pass it to, because there was no Swindon player within 30 yards of him. And that was the biggest issue, because, again, at home, you expect to be driving the game forward, don't you? You expect to be on the front foot. You expect to be pushing the opposition back. And if they beat you because they caught you on the break or something like that, not basically having the whole of the pitch to themselves to play their football in, whilst we just sit in defence and wait to see what happens next. So it was... There's so many areas that you could pick a hole in from Saturday's performance. They just literally need to get that proverbial kick up the backside in training this week, work a damn lot harder, make sure they close down people so they're not giving them time on the ball. We were very, very poor at doing that, I thought, on Saturday. I was fully expecting a Mark Kennedy team to come out and be in the opposition's faces. He was renowned for basically having a team that didn't score very many, but didn't concede very many at Lincoln. So I was fully expecting a committed performance in terms of stopping the opposition from playing if we couldn't play ourselves. And we didn't see either.
Yeah. Darren says, very frustrating being a Swindon fan, for sure. You wouldn't go back to a restaurant if you got continually bad service. I left early Saturday, never done that. The extra pint in the pub was needed before the train home to Cheltenham, only to find we got diverted to Bristol due to signal failure, and then find out a certain Mr. Twine had scored the winner for City. The joys of following Swindon. Yes, he got a late winner, didn't he, for Bristol City? Smith already on 3 bookings, says Matthew. Now we have people comparing going to football with going to a restaurant. I go to football because I have Swindon in my blood. In a way, I envy those who only go if we're good. At one time, all 20 players in the 15-yard circle, just like watching kids' football. How did you... I mean, watching it, Declan, I mean, all right, we've had a moan. I think it's fair to say we were all entitled to a moan because, boy, oh, boy, it was the sort of game you want to moan about. But what would you like to see going forward? We played well second half at Chesterfield, got back from 2-0 down at Crawley, conceded late goals. Again, like Rob was saying, the third one, certainly. Everybody stood still expecting the ball to go out for a corner. It wasn't. The ball was played back. They scored. I mean, what would you like to see going forward?
I think the first thing to say, Vic, is about the referee at Chesterfield. If it wasn't for him, we'd probably have no points at the moment, because he should have given them a penalty in the game as well. So kudos to him for not giving it. But back to your question, anytime I go to watch Swindon Town, the more than the rest of us in various lengths of time watching various teams over the years, you want honesty, you want endeavour, you want commitment. That's what you want from your players. There was precious little of that on Saturday, and that was the most annoying part for me as a supporter. As I said earlier on, the job Mark Kennedy has this week on the training ground, I think he's fortunate in a sense he doesn't have a game midweek this week. He's got a full week to work with the players on the training pitch. He's got a really big job ahead of him to lift them, to try and get his message across to them, because it didn't look as if they were taking it on board to me on Saturday. I'd be interested to hear what the rest of the guys think on that. But honesty, commitment and passion in the shirt, that's what I want when I go to see Swindon Town play, and I didn't get it on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a fair few points there, and I think most of us would agree with that, Mark, wouldn't we? I mean, that's the least you expect, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it just felt like we were beaten up, didn't it? But I suppose there's two different sides of me, one of which thinks, is this an inevitable consequence of a guy who's managing in his third third game with a bunch of strangers. And compared to Walsall, who've got a settled team, a settled manager, a settled setup. But I do take Declan's comments as well. He's absolutely right, isn't he? You know, the minimum you expect is a bit of pride in the shirt. Didn't really see that. You know, I take on board the comments that once, I think you said, Vic, once it went to 3 or 4-0, wasn't anybody going, right, seizing things by the scruff of the neck and saying, come on. There was none of that. There just seemed to be an acceptance and a resignation. Right, we're going to lose this game and we're going to lose it comfortably, and we're not doing very much to try to put it right. That might be very unfair, but to fans watching, that was the impression that was given. And going back to those fans, they're perfectly entitled to leave. I left early for the Aldershot game. The only time I've ever done that, bar one back in the 70s in my 50 years as a fan. I didn't leave early Saturday, but I can perfectly understand why people did, because what they were seeing on the pitch simply wasn't good enough. And I think, you know, other grounds and other teams, basically at Swindon, there's an overriding and overwhelming feeling of apathy rather than anger. And I think, you know, a lot of other grounds, there'd have been a lot more than that for a 4-0 home defeat and an abject display on the first game of the season. So maybe they got away with it. Maybe they were quite lucky that a lot of people who might have stayed to vent their spleen left early and left probably a couple of thousand in the ground as a smattering of boos at the end. And that was about it. But, you know, in some ways, I'd rather have anger, because I want to see a bit of passion from the fans as well. You know, we have had several years after the first promising year under Morfuni, when we finished 6th, we've gone 10th, 19th. On this particular trajectory, a lot of people fear the worst. And you can understand why, because fearing the worst means we go out of the league. Now, that might sound rather drastic and dramatic after the second league game of the season. But unless things are addressed and players are bought in, you know, there's no ifs about that. That's an absolute must. We must get a minimum of a couple of players in by the end of the window, one of whom is a striker who's got a bit of pace and at least one creative midfielder. Otherwise, it's a job to see with the players and the way they played on Saturday whether the whole thing could be turned around.
Well, that point has been made by Pete. We need another striker and a playmaker in midfield.
Desperately.
Yeah. Carl says we'll take time, but I think we need to focus on building a core that's believed in from the manager to the spectators, that play every week and play as a team. Those 6 or 7 players will be the spine of the team and collectively lead the rest by example. The others will then raise their game and be part of it too. Our better managers all had this, haven't seen any sight of it in the last 3 or 4 years. Hopefully we will improve, and quickly, but we don't yet have a talisman. 2 old duffers following the Swindon Town was looking forward to a giant spine throughout our team, but our players shrunk after a few minutes. And if the people doing the signing of players don't pull off a miracle, I can honestly see us in National League. 3 years of decline and no sight of turning the corner. The darker days are incoming. Depressing, negative, I know. That's from Nick. I have passion. They heard me from my seat, says Rich. I mean, I'm looking, you know, tables are ridiculous at the time of the year, but you know, we were top on Friday night at the start of the season, Anna, and now we're 21st with 1 point from 2 games, -4 goal difference. Then come Morecambe, no points from 2 games with -2. Then MK Dons, big surprise, no points from 2 games, -3. And then Crewe, who let in all those goals on Saturday, no points from 2 games, -6. Tables are irrelevant, or are they, Anna? Because, you know, as fans, they mean a lot to us, don't they, when you look at a league table?
Oh, they give you an indication, don't they? You know, we've started previous seasons at the bottom, haven't we? And I'm going to go all the way back to the Macari.
Yeah.
Macari is
85,
his
86.
full season.
Yeah.
And we were plumbing the depths then, weren't we? And we turned it around. But that was for very specific reasons. Was that I think, you know, he had an ethos and a fitness regime which was second to none, and that carried us through a lot of those games from probably October to, you know, March, when the pitches were extremely heavy. I don't think you'll get a set of players like that anymore. I heard I don't know who it was behind the scenes saying that there's a lot of ball work going on, which is great. You know, there's also got to be you've got to look to fitness as well, because that will pull us up, especially in the latter reaches of the game. But you know, we've really got to think about that strike partnership. That's one of the things of paramount importance. So if we can bring in a creator, or maybe a couple of creators, then what is that front pairing look like? And is it a pairing? Is it Smith and Glatzel? I don't see Smith and Drinan together. We had that for a large part of the Chesterfield game, didn't we? And it didn't seem to work. But if you are going to play Smith with Glatzel, then Glatzel has to be running on. He can't be sitting behind Smith. He has to be running on in front to get that knockdown. And he wants the ball played in front of him. He's not a holder up of play. He can't hold the ball up with his back to goal. He needs the ball dropped in front of him to run onto. And they're all confidence players. Glatzel, I think, had a bit of a fluffer at Crawley, didn't he, when he put it past the post when he was in quite a good position. Strikers are notoriously confidence players. So, but they're not being fed much, and he's only going to get confidence if he gets a shinner in. But if that ball comes into his feet in the first place, and the amount of chances and touches in the opposition box was so very, very poor on Saturday, you've got to look to that as well. Feed the box, feed the strikers, sort out, is it big man, little man? Is it one up front again? Is it big target man and put balls into the box to hit his head? And maybe that is the formula for the time being, that you've got a target man for a reason. Well, use him, but put the ball in the box where he can get to it, not have him sitting so far up deep that he can't even get a touch in the box. There's so many things to iron out, but that's a big part of it. Big man,
small man, ideal combination, Liam, as I always thought. You play the ball in, and big man knocks it down, small man takes the chance. To me, that's a classic way of looking at it, isn't it?
It is indeed, isn't it? And it's worked really well. We need that combination, but it hasn't quite started yet. Just leading on the tables bit, it's interesting what you've both said, Anna and Vic, that MK Dons and Crewe both made the playoffs last year, and MK lost the final, didn't they? And Donny lost to Newport on Saturday, which nobody would have thought. So it is going to change around, just like it did this time last year. It's just about whether we seize that initiative. I mean, one of my concerns is actually about the pitch. Very narrow, wasn't it? It's narrowed an awful lot. So if we're using wing backs, forgive me, I'm not that smart. Why is the pitch narrow then if we're using wing backs and we're going for a back five? Thought the whole point of that would be to use the wings and use effectively, because that traditionally our pitch has been one of the widest in the league, hasn't it? I mean, that's
one of the biggest. I think at one point was it the second biggest in the country, if I remember rightly.
So
within the rules, as it were, but it was the second biggest, wasn't it?
If we're going to have the big guy up front playing off the little one that gets the scraps or what have you, then you're going to have speedy wingers. You're going to have David Moss going down the side, aren't you, passing it across? But we're not doing that at the moment. It'd be interesting to see what happens this week. Rob, you're having a smile there.
David Moss.
Moss. I think he made us all smile there.
And David Moss.
Well, hopefully at some point we'll be able to. Declan's helping us with one of those players to try and track down. So thank you for your clue, Declan. I will get onto it. What was I going to say?
Vic, can I just make a point of transfer? This time last year, our season was built on quicksand, which was Kemp and Young. Now, fortunately, they hit the ground running for us fantastically, but everybody knew come January they were going to go. Our season turned against Notts County, I think, first week in October last year. It was downhill after that. And we knew the two boys were going to find any kind of quality replacements for them was going to be difficult, which it proved to be. The difference this year is we've signed players. So less likely to lose players in January than what we were last January, right? Unless Glatzel somehow finds his goal-scoring touch and the club decide to cash in on him and sell him in January, which is always a possibility as well. Just on a transfer as well, I heard today that Liam Kinsella has been released by Cheltenham.
Yes.
As well, so that's an interesting one. Not that he's going to come back to us, but it's just an interesting one that he had such a relationship with Michael Flynn, and now 2-3 games into the season he's surplus to requirements at Cheltenham. But I think the point about it was making that you've got permanent players here now, so the turnover in January isn't going to be, we think, as bad as it would have been or have the impact that it had in previous seasons. Not only with Kemp and Young, Owen Doyle was another one, of course. Inevitably, he came back, thankfully. But so that's something. But again, we've got to get it right the next 2 weeks in the window to give ourselves a real chance.
Yeah, in going back in time when Anna was making that point about 85, 86, if we'd lost to Torquay on a Friday night, we would have been bottom of the league, if I remember rightly. Won that 1-2-1. I think the anniversary is today, strangely enough. But you did smile when David Moss and Trevor Anderson, Eastoe, people, oh gosh, I love that team so much. It was just a fantastic team, Rob. And if you could see football like that these days, you'd be more than happy, wouldn't you?
Well, it's the football, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's the skillful players. It's the players that get you off your seat, get you excited, get you interested in the game. That's what we were brought up with. I know we all look back on our youth as something which maybe it wasn't, but it always feels like the footballing standards back then, in all parts of the pitch, whether you like creative players, whether you like thugs who are going to go and put a boot in somewhere, whether you like big centre halves, whatever it is. It always feels better in the olden days than what it does today. And it's strange, really, because everyone tells you that the product's got so much better if you listen to everybody on Sky. But there you go. That's my little take on it all. But if we go back to where we are now, we've got to look at, we talked about formations earlier on, and you talk about, do you get the right strike partnership in there? Do we need a partnership with the players that we've got? Certainly going away to Crewe. Would we not be better off 4-5-1 on Saturday? With 3 strong midfield players in there to try and support Smith and get 2 people out wide to get balls in the box to Smith up front. To me, that seems a no-brainer at the moment because we just don't have the personnel to play the 5 that we're playing at the back in the way that we're playing it. With the 2 wing-backs don't get forward in the way that you expect wing-backs to play. The 3 midfielders look like they're completely alien in their 3 midfield positions. And Glatzel didn't receive the ball in the way that he wants, as Anna mentioned earlier on. If you're going to get the best out of Glatzel, you've got to get him facing the goal. You've got to get balls going over the top for him to run onto. If he's going to have his back to goal, he's never going to see the ball at all. So it's horses for courses. And if we don't bring people in this week to be able to change it, you've got to find a formation that works with the players that you've got. And I think if I were to lay one big criticism from this weekend, and there's so many things we could say, it's the fact that the formation didn't work. The way that they played it, the players within that formation, the attitude to play in that formation, none of it worked. So they have to find something different this weekend. If they don't, then I feel we might be in the same situation again this time next week.
Lots of comments coming in, so forgive me if I don't get to all of them. So loads of them that are being sent through to me. There's one here from a Lincoln fan. Hi Brian, thanks very much for being with us. It won't get any better, believe me. Mark Kennedy plays not to lose rather than to win. Carl Skeets, we had 2 wing backs who never beat their man once Saturday. If you don't get the ball into the box, you can't score. All ifs, buts and maybes, but I think a fit Charlie Austin could have done a job up front for us this season. If we are relying on a combination of Smith, Drinan and Glatzel to score the majority of goals, the prospects aren't good. Hi, Andy. Look, bang average teams get out of this division. We have a bang average squad, so have as good a chance as anyone. If we're sat at the top after 2 games, the same fans who are saying we're going down will be saying don't get carried away. There's 44 games to go. This squad is capable of improving, in my opinion. Mark, I mean, I think there's a lot in that, isn't there? We can't. I think it was just the way they lost on Saturday. I mean, if you lose, you lose, don't you? And there's a point that's been made earlier on. Richie Wellens lost his first home game 4-0 to Carlisle. Yep. And we all thought, what is this? And look what happened there. And I think there is a lot in that. I think it's the way they did lose on Saturday that most people were upset about.
Yeah, I think that's right, Vic. I think it's also combined with the way we finished last season. I think the 2 things go hand in hand, don't they? You know, the fact that Swindon Town Football Club, in my opinion, a championship club and bigger, potentially, finished 19th in League 2. And then on top of that, you had Saturday's capitulation and people are putting 2 and 2 together and going, right, well, we haven't improved. In fact, it seems we've gone backwards. And just to touch on a few other points, first of all, Rob saying about, you know, the team of the 80s. I think the likes of Bamba and Hockaday and Chris Kamara and Lee Barnard and all those other legends in the Lou Macari team we identified with those players, and we identified with them because they were there for a while.
Yeah.
I'll give you a classic example of that. Lee Barnard, right? Lee Barnard was on his way out of the door. Lou Macari didn't rate him, but Lee Barnard decided he was going to try his absolute guts out to get into the team. And look at him. He got 2 successive promotions from a guy who probably by his own admission didn't have a huge amount of talent. But what he did have was heart. He had a massive heart. He'd run all day. And we want our players to be the same. But are they going to feel the same way about Swindon Town when they're on a 1-year contract? They don't have any vested interest in the football club. They're going to move on to pastures new, a bit like Blake Tracy and Dokes did at the end of last season. Maybe not. But Kennedy's got to find some way to instill that kind of passion in those players, hasn't he? So we don't see a repeat of Saturday on a regular basis. And I like what Declan's been saying earlier on. You know, he's made some very sensible and astute comments and built on quicksand. He said, I wrote that down, Declan, because that's right. And we all knew, didn't we, that once Young and Kemp had scored between them, 40 goals last season, they'd be going back. And you can't replace them. So perhaps...
It's 32, wasn't it? I think they both got 16 each. Yeah.
Perhaps we're going to have a sticky start. Perhaps we're not going to win too many games in the first 6, 8, 10 games, and then maybe we'll come on stronger. But whether the fans, given what's happened in the last few years, will give the team that much time and the manager that much time, I'm not sure. Some of us will, but I'm not sure that many will. You know, we want success and we want it instantly, don't we? That's the way the modern football fan is, I think, and you can understand that. But I think we might well have to be patient and build, see how it goes.
Some of us are getting older, though, Mark. I'd just like to see a bit of success at some point.
Sorry, Dick, just a bit of trivia. We've mentioned Lou Macari there, and everyone's face lights up when you talk about. I don't remember too much about that era, to be honest, but I know all Lou Macari. And an interesting one, our next home game is against Notts County in a couple of weeks' time, and all things being equal, there will be a Macari on the pitch for Notts County. Lou's grandson.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's playing with Notts County at the moment. So
yeah, he played last season, didn't he? I think
assist on Saturday for their goal.
Yeah, he was over here on loan. He was over here on loan with Dundalk, and he got a move and ended up at Notts County and is doing quite well. So I'm sure that it might be an opportunity perhaps to bring Lou back to the county ground. I don't know, has he been back too much recently? But it'd be nice to see him back for that occasion.
He's been back a few times, I think. Let's have a look. Kevin says, give the lads a chance. We're all frustrated from Saturday. This is a brand new squad, new manager. I agree with Rob. We don't have a midfield. Understanding time will tell with this group. Hopefully we can bounce back. A fit McGirt will get a few goals, but we need a strike partnership to bully the opposition defences. We want effort, pride and passion, can forgive a defeat. I think that is a point, isn't it? And I think, you know, going away on Saturday, you know, we've been beaten a lot lately, let's be honest. I mean, over the past few years, we've lost a few games. And what you want is, if you get beat at home, you want to say, well, actually, they're to go. And they were beaten by a better team. I mean, Walsall were the better team on the day. There's no question about that. They were more organised, streetwise, knew what they were doing. And even in the last 5 minutes, they knew how to keep the ball in the corner to suck up the time, didn't they? It was just, actually, for some of us, it was quite great to watch that, the way they did it. But what you want to see now is an increase in that thing called passion, that thing called, I want to win for this football club. That's what you want to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you want to see some graft, and that's what we're going to have to do at Crewe, isn't it? You want to see the opposition close down. You don't want to see them running 10 yards with the ball approaching you at the edge of your penalty area, because that's where we get in trouble. You want to see movement. You want to see runs being. You want to see players backing each other up. You want to hunt in packs, as they say. You know, if you're going after the ball and you're pressing, don't just one player press, because that's useless. You need a team to press as a whole. So, and that's the minimum you expect. Go back to the basics. Close the ball down. Don't allow them space. Try and win every ball. Don't hold back and look for the second ball. Don't let the ball bounce over the top. That's the minimum you expect from any side, and particularly when you're in the position we're in, which is, you know, we haven't had a great start. We haven't been ahead in the game yet. That's exactly what is needed. Crewe are going to be as nervous as us when you look at it. When you look at their defeat at home to Chesterfield on Saturday, conceded one more goal than us, and I suspect that it feels like the first goal will win it, because whoever scores the first goal, that the opposition will be looking down at their feet, not knowing what to do next. This really is a momentum game, isn't it? Football.
Yeah.
Once you lose heart, and it's easy to do that. I think when you're in the position we're in, it's a big ask to come back from that. So, show a bit of passion, but do the basics. Just do the basics right, and I think things will come good. It is early days, but we've got to see some signs and green shoots. And as we've said before, there wasn't really a lot to be positive about Saturday, so we've got to start seeing those positives as we go into that Crewe game. And it's a big match for us, I think. And if you're there, I might have some of these with me.
Oh dear, what a shameless plug. Well done. I thought that was very smoothly done. I could plug my videos about Swindon Town's League Cup campaign if we want to. But anyway, we wouldn't plug anything, really. That's not very good, is it? Hi, Fifey. Nice to hear from you. And don't forget, Fools Rush In is on at 9 o'clock if you want more Swindon Town content. Fifey Fools Rush In podcast. I believe someone once sang, "Things can only get better." I agree with the comment about this squad can improve, but how far is the question. Keep the faith. One bad result does not define our season. Never left early, regardless of the result. Had people leaving early. Preston comes to mind. Right. No matter how the manager is, has he got say in who he brings to the club? Until this changes to the manager coach, it will not change. As I do feel for Kennedy. One would hope he's got some input into who he brings to the club. That's all I can say. Right. Kevin says, and this is a question, what will be a good result at Crewe, please, guys? Let's start with you, Liam.
Well, they play 4-2-3-1, I noticed. I've just checked to see what their formations are, so I'm sure there'll be some preparation for that this week. Well, I want to win because they're bottom of the league, aren't they, or second bottom? So
they are bottom of the league officially. Yes,
0 with MK Dons. So I want to win. I want to turn it round. But I agree with what Anna's just said, which is about the performance. So let's see some turnaround. Let's see some heart. I think it's a sort of combination of everything we've said tonight, really, and see what happens. Including he's got a week to get this right and prepare. It's an early game, of course, isn't it? Because it's on TV. So it's a 12:30 start. So one hopes that the club is spending a bit of money in sending them up there the night before, rather than them leaving at 7 o'clock with the SAS coach. So one hopes that they're ready and prepared for it. And you know what? I was thinking through this. It'd be good if they actually watched this, and read some of the comments that people have made and the passion that we've got from the fans through this evening. And let's see if they get some passion the same from them on Saturday.
7:30 for the SAS bus, by the way. You can get there early. That's fine. But 7:30, 7 a.m. for Barrow.
To Barrow. Forgive me.
The pain is already etched in me. 10 to 6 for some of us on Saturday. Rob, I know you'll be there, but you're going up the night before and sort of in some palatial hotel somewhere. I know you are.
A travel lodge.
No matter how the man. Oh, hang on. Long balls aren't working, says Haley. Need to start closing players down. We can do this. We've got some good signings. Still need to gel. Give it a few games. Rob, nobody's writing anybody off. It is early season, but what do you want to see at Crewe? Effectively, I want to see 3 points. It may or may not happen, but that's what you want to see, isn't it?
Well, 3 points is the aspiration, isn't it? Because that's what we all want to see. None of us, the Swindon fans, want to see anything less than that. But I want to see progression on Saturday. That's the biggest thing for me. I want to see an identity about the club. I want to see all the things that have been mentioned so often on this panel tonight: the heart, the attitude, the real desire to win a game of football. I want to see that from my players on Saturday. And if they end up getting done by somebody falling over in the penalty area in the 91st minute and we lose 1-0, if we've seen that for the previous 90 minutes, I'll accept that because we know we're starting to move forward. What I won't accept is what we saw on Saturday. And if we don't see any progression from that, irrespective of the result, we're still back at the starting blocks again, aren't we? Even if we've picked up a point or 2, 3 points as a result of doing so. It doesn't really make any difference if we haven't seen our team is moving forward in the right way. So that's the critical thing for me. The worry is the fact that Crewe haven't scored a home goal since March. So you know what's coming on Saturday, don't you, as a direct result of that. But if we have to outscore
I'm a lover
them,
of those sort of stats.
well, yeah, if we have to outscore them, I'd rather that this week. If we end up winning 4-3, I'd rather that than a 1-0 victory, or that however much a 1-0 victory would be lovely to see for the defence. It would be nice to see that we've got some creativity, some excitement back in the side again, because that's what we really lacked on Saturday. If we'd have lost, if we go back to the older shot scenario, if we'd have lost 7-4 and had a real go in that last 20 minutes like we did, suddenly you come out of there with a little bit of positivity, even though you'd still been hammered. You still had something to cling on to. We had nothing to cling on to on Saturday.
I'll tell you what, I'll tell you about talking of the Macquarie days. I'll take you back to that Blackpool game. I think we were 4-0 down at half.
Yeah. And we really had a go second half. And everyone got
one of the best atmospheres I can ever remember at the county ground. It was fabulous. I know we lost 6-0, I think it was in the end, but we had a go.
6-2, wasn't it? 6-2. So we drew the second half 2 each.
Yeah, we had a cracking go at that one. Matt says Crawley lost 18 times last season, went up. There you are, Declan. How about that? So what do you want to see on Saturday?
Increased commitment. I want to see the benefits of a good week's solid training behind the players. I'd like to see us produce or replicate the performance of Chesterfield in the second half over a sustained period of time. Shin one in the 91st minute, Glatzel. Just get confidence going in the lad, and that trip home, whatever way they make it on Saturday afternoon, will be far more pleasant, and they can look forward to Notts County. So, look, if we play well, great, and win. If we don't play well and still win, I'd be happy. Just important just to get the 3 points on Saturday.
Mark?
Yeah, pretty much the same as what everybody else has said. I'd like to see a method. I'm going to disagree with one of the callers you had who said that long balls don't work. Well, Lou Macari's team was a long ball team. It was a direct team. Yeah. But it worked for them because we were A, super fit, and B, everybody knew what they were doing. So, you know, we've all criticised, haven't we, over the last few seasons, the ticky-tacky and the passing out from the back. I suspect we're not going to see a lot of that this year. So if that's the case, and you're going to use the long ball more often than not, let's get people around Harry Smith. Let's get people feeding off him, because when he's at his best, he's a very difficult player to handle. I disagree with Anna earlier on when she said that Smith and Drinan don't work. They absolutely tore us a new one when they both
Leighton Orient. Yeah.
You know, so I think it can work a bit. It doesn't always have to be a big man and a little man. I think that's a bit of a cliche. I think it's just people understanding what their roles are, who comes short, who flicks the ball on, who picks up scraps, and all of that stuff. And that was clearly lacking on Saturday. But I'm going to agree with Declan what he said earlier. Put that down to the fact that they're strangers early season, and you know we can hopefully kick on and put in an improved performance. I suspect, sadly, I'm sorry to be the voice of doom and gloom, that we may lose. I suspect we may not win too many games in the first 6 or 8, and hopefully then pick up from there.
Okay. A lot of the dirty stuff needs to do, and I don't mean clogging and all that. You know what I mean by that. A lot of the dirty stuff that goes on in a football match. Which means hard work, doesn't it? Yeah. And, Anna?
Well, yeah, what can you say? I was erring on the side of strange and random optimism until I heard Rob's stat of Crewe not having scored at home since March, and now I think my heart is in my boots as a result of that. I'm very big on that sort of stat. It's just it can't last, can it? That sort of statistic. So I'd like to. Obviously, I want the 3 points. If we can't get the 3 points, I'd like a clean sheet. Perhaps we'll get both, but the first goal is definitely key. So we've got to be tight at the back. We've got to work hard. We've got to get that ball quickly up front. We've got to work out, is it Glatzel and Smith? Is it Drinan and Glatzel? Is it Drinan and Smith? But either way, get the balls in, get the balls in the box, get the players in the box, and try and create some chances and a bit of excitement as well. So I can't say I'm optimistic, but there's always hope.
Let's just get back on track. If it's a pun, let's just get back on track.
Absolutely, I quite agree. Right, before we wrap up, we should say congratulations to Swindon's women yesterday. They beat Keynsham 4-2 away from home. Libby Davis with 2 goals on her debut. Taylor McDonald and Helena Diaz-Busher also scored. The Academy Under-18s lost 2-1 to Luton on Saturday. George Alston getting the goal. And I believe the women are at home at the county ground this coming Sunday. So if you are wanting to watch some women's football at the county ground on Sunday, that's the place to be. I believe that's right. If I'm wrong, we'll correct it. Thank you all very much indeed for your presence this evening. I know it's been a bit of a sort of let's all have a bit of a session and get it out of our system. But I hope we finished on a slightly positive note. And Chris joins us from the darkness. Hello, Chris.
I do. You were correct, Vic. The ladies, the women are at home on Sunday.
Yes.
Bournemouth. So,
Bournemouth, that's right. Yeah.
Bournemouth. Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, everybody. Really good. Hope we can get Mr. Kennedy to maybe listen and do it. Might send it over to the club and see if they'll listen to it. But Vic and I will be back next week with an On the Sofa. Keep your eyes on the socials to see who we have. But until then, have a good week and we will see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.